violations simply continue. So all of that exhilarating promise and hope and optimism that washed across Egypt 3 years ago, that brought us together here on the Hill 3 years ago, has been so desperately betrayed. And instead now a deep and serious and worsening human rights crisis faces the country. So on top of all of that, this week's news of the grotesque travesty of mass death sentences handed down against 529 people. It is a stunning affront to justice, rule of law, and human rights. Even in the midst of this deepening human rights crackdown, this week's mass death sentences came as a stunning affront. In one single hearing, Egypt has far surpassed the number of death sentences that most other countries that still retain executions would hand down in an entire year. That was done in one day in Egypt. It is certainly the highest batch of simultaneous death sentences that Amnesty International has seen anywhere in years. And it comes at a time when the momentum in almost every corner of the world now is unstoppably in the direction of abolishing the death penalty and ending executions. To be going in exact to the international community. It sends a very clear message of contempt for basic principles of justice, of disregard for fundamental international legal norms, and of complete disinterest in what the rest of the world may think about the state of human rights protection in Egypt. And of course, most importantly, for Egyptians, it asks one very stark question. Does Egypt's criminal justice system have anything to do with justice? So what of the international community? And given where we've gathered today, what of Canada? Surely, in the face of such a stunning campaign of human rights violations, countries are speaking out. Surely, in the face of such a troubling, rapid human rights decline, Canada has been outspoken and forceful in pressing for the violations to end. Surely, there has been a chorus of concern and condemnation following the grim and sinister spectacle of 529 people being sentenced to death in one fell swoop. Well, you know the answer to all of that. We haven't heard that chorus of condemnation. We haven't heard that forceful outspokenness. It has been near total silence. There has been no public comment from the Canadian government about the situation in Egypt since mid-January, when Minister Baird welcomed the conclusion of voting in Egypt's constitutional referendum, expressed hope that the interim Egyptian government meets its ambitious timetable while ensuring adherence to the fundamentals of democratic values. The minister asserted that Canada continues to stand with the Egyptian people as they work to build a strong, inclusive, prosperous, and democratic Egypt based on respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms and the rule of law. Those are the minister's words. If there ever was space for such empty platitudes in the midst of Egypt's deepening human rights crisis, which there most certainly was not, there certainly is no space for empty platitudes any longer. Every day brings news of more injustice and more violations. Every day of disgraceful silence from Canada only deepens the view, deepens the concern that these platitudes are empty, hollow, and cynical. Canada must, of course, stand with the Egyptian people in this struggle for human rights. We do not stand with the Egyptian people when we are silent in the face of human rights violations, when we are silent in the face of news of 529 people being sentenced to death. Standing with the Egyptian people means speaking out when human rights are violated, not staying silent. And that means speaking out now. Condemning the mass death sentences against 529 people would be such an obvious and very good place to start. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was much appreciated. We really appreciate the words. We really appreciate everything that you were said. Thank you so much. We will continue with our